We've reached the age where we have parents who are getting older. I hate to use the O word, goodness, but it's a fact, right? They're getting older, and potentially kids or nieces, nephews who are becoming parents, or at least who are adults. And it's such an interesting perspective change because, yes, we're in the sandwich generation phase where we might be taking care of both. And also, we're watching both generations kind of change around us. And sometimes there might be things that we have missed about our parents' generation that are just powerful and special and maybe life-changing. Let's talk about it.
Welcome to Mind Your Midlife, your go-to resource for confidence and success, one thought at a time. Unlike most advice out there, we believe that simply telling you to believe in yourself or change your habits isn't enough to wake up excited about life or feel truly confident in your body. Each week, you'll gain actionable strategies and, oh my goodness, powerful insights to stop feeling stuck and start loving your midlife. This is the Mind Your Midlife podcast.
I am lucky, and maybe you are too, that right now both my parents are living and both my in-laws are living. One of the four has a very serious health issue, however, and is not really accessible to me in the way that I would love them to be, where we could chat and we could still interact well. And that's been just a tremendously difficult thing to go through. And any of you who are going through having a parent or someone that is meaningful for you in the older generation who's going through something chronic or who is no longer with us, my heart truly goes out to you. It is not easy at all. And that being said, going through that situation with this one person has taught me so much in terms of the power of different generations, the power of family, and just the power of actually paying attention when we're interacting with people. So what we're talking about today is what to ask the older generation. I wish I could think of a better word than older. Maybe by the time I actually have a title for this episode, it will not say older, but here we are. There are things that you don't know about your parents. That's always going to be the case, right? Our parents are not going to tell us everything, even when you have these conversations that I'm suggesting you have. There are definitely things we don't know. And what I have learned through this few years of difficult journey is there are a lot of things that I didn't know. And there are probably a lot of things that you don't know. And if you have still parents living and able to communicate with you, I don't want you to lose these things because it's so cool to learn things about this generation that we never knew. And maybe it becomes things that we carry on as a legacy in our families. Maybe it becomes things that explain something that bothered us for a long time or something that we never understood. Or maybe it's just fun to see that generation as more of a whole person. Because what I meant at the beginning of the episode is when you have adult kids, you as the parent are learning how to see those kids now as an adult, right? And sometimes they get frustrated with us. And I got frustrated with my parents at this point. So we all understand. We have to learn how to see them as adults. And it's a change. It's kind of filling them in from this flat two-dimensional definition to this whole person. And it's not done at that point. As our parents now maybe need help from us or support from us, we're looking at them differently, seeing new angles. And that can be really a powerful process. It doesn't have to be just about how am I going to help them out? What care do they need? I always thought of this as kind of an old once upon a time, it used to be this way. Stories were passed down generations, but that's a thing. Stories get passed down generation to generation. And nowadays, we don't communicate in the same way. We may or may not really spend time in large family groups telling stories and remembering things and joking about when that funny thing happened. So we need to be a little bit more focused on doing that because it doesn't happen naturally. And there's an African proverb that I found when I was researching a little bit for this episode that says, when an old person dies, a library burns. And I just found that to be so powerful. There's just so much there when we lose someone. And if we can have the conversations to learn more about our parents, about this generation, maybe we're shifting that relationship from child parent to whole person. This person has regrets. This person has hopes and dreams, some that they achieved, some that they didn't. This person has a whole history growing up that we never knew about because we didn't exist. And maybe we don't know much about them when we were growing up either because they were taking care of us and we weren't focused on them. It fills in the whole person. And maybe fixes some blind spots that we might have about life. Whether this is your parent or it's a friend, it's someone that you're visiting in an assisted living, whatever, there are things they know that we haven't seen yet. Just like there are things we know that our kids haven't seen yet. We learn it as we grow, right? We learn it as we get seasoned. That's my favorite way of saying get older. And so why not try to learn from them and maybe avoid some mistakes, maybe have more empathy, maybe see the value in different generations. And quite simply, conversation is a way that you can maintain a relationship with any person as long as they still have the mental capacity to do that. Maybe they're not as active, maybe they don't want to do as many things, maybe they can't travel, but they can have conversation. So have conversation while you can, because when it goes, I can tell you from firsthand experience, it's really hard to know that you can't get that back. It's really hard. So why do we not do this? Why do we not just sit down with our parents and say, hey, I have questions for you. Tell me about your childhood. I think we don't necessarily think we have time to just sit down and chat. Maybe we aren't a sitter and a chatter. I have friends and people in my family who'd rather be active doing, right? That's okay. Maybe we think that either we would be being nosy and we might upset them, or that we already know. We know them. What questions would we need to ask? To be honest, I think that's how I felt. Of course, I know my parents. I grew up with them. I've been an adult now for 30 years, and they've been involved in my life and my family's life. Of course, I know them. It's ridiculous to assume I don't. Don't let that stop you from having some of these conversations because there's so many cool things to learn. And so what I want to do is help you. I want to make this easy. I want to give you some examples, tell you how these conversations might happen. And then over on Patreon and Substack for paid and free subscribers, I'm going to give you a sample list of questions and little tips for how to have these conversations. I just think we need to grab this time while we can. And so I did a little bit of this with my one parent who I can't talk to anymore, but I didn't do enough. And now I'm going to go and do it with the others. So what kinds of themes are we talking about? You probably don't know very much about their childhood. You may not know very much about choices they made, about their career, or about marriage, kids, hobbies. You may not know very much about things they might regret. It's a tough one to sit in, but might be worth it. You may not know how they kind of wanted to leave a legacy and what they think is the most amazing thing that they've achieved with the family or the career or anything. What are they proud of? I love that one. What are they proud of? I mean, it's just such an empowering question to ask somebody, what are you most proud of? Oh, amazing. So I'm going to give you some sample questions now and then a whole list. So go subscribe on Patreon or Substack. Find Mind Your Midlife, patreon.com/mindyourmidlife, mindyourmidlife.substack.com. It's the same, doesn't matter which one you like. And you can get the whole list. So the key here is to not grab a parent or an aunt or an uncle and sit down and shine a light in their eyes like an interrogation. We want to do this so that it feels like we are furthering a close relationship with them. And so you do want to be in the right mindset to do this. Why are we even thinking of having some discussions, asking some questions to our parents? It's because we love them. It's because we know they have value and there is information that they can pass on to us that will be valuable. It's because we want to fill in the whole picture of who they are so we remember them in the right way. It's because we're grateful for them. We're here because of them. So we want to, number one, be in that mindset where we're really valuing that other person, because if that's the basis of what we're thinking about, they're going to feel it. It's really important that this not feel like an interrogation, right? So first of all, kind of get your mindset into that I love you and value you and I want to know more about you frame of mind. Then you want to choose the right time. So some type of relaxed setting is good. Maybe it's you're going for a walk or something like that. Maybe you're on a drive, on a trip. Maybe it's a meal and you're all kind of hanging out and the TV's not on and you need some conversation.
One of the most common topics that you are concerned about in midlife has been how to move through a job change that you didn't want on a timing you didn't want it. So starting this month in September, each month in Substack and Patreon, paid subscribers will have a secret podcast mini-series. And this month, how to move through that job change in a way that is healthy for you. I'll see you there. Patreon.com/mindyourmidlife and mindyourmidlife.substack.com.
Try to just avoid when people are stressed, when people are distracted, when you're in a rush. You want a casual, chill moment to ask a few questions and see what they say. And you want to start with the light questions, I'm going to say. Maybe it's like fun nostalgia. Don't go right into how do you want to leave your legacy in the world? Start with fun things. And make sure that this is kind of open-ended questions. Now, I think that some people have a natural ability to ask really great questions. And I think you probably know who you are listening to this. That was not me. And when I got my coaching certification a few years ago, what do coaches do? We ask questions to help you figure out where you're headed and how you want to get there. So I know how to do it now, but I had to learn. So open-ended questions are the powerful ones, not just a yes or no. Did you love going to school? Yes, no. Did you this? Did you that? Yes, no. That it's going to leave you in a situation where they say yes or no, and you kind of go, okay. You don't know what else to say. The goal here is to start a conversation that could be a really cool conversation. So, what you want to say more like, tell me about when you were in high school, or what was it like when you were in college? For example, one of the things that I have enjoyed so much, and this has been years and years now, but my sister and I have chatted over a long period of time, different things with my mom about how it was when she went to college. She went to college in the mountains of Virginia at a women's college that was like cousin to a men's college. So they were not very isolated as women or anything, and this was in the 60s, and I have always been so fascinated hearing her talk about this, and it was so much fun to find out more. So for example, they if they went to a football game, they had to wear a skirt, no pants. I think they had to have hose or tights. They had to wear gloves, and they had to wear a hat. Now, I went to college around like the late 80s, early 90s. Uh, a skirt, gloves, and a hat to a football game? Mind boggling. I just love picturing that. It just entertains me. And she would tell us about the house mother in her dorm, and how if anyone she wanted to go on a date with came, they had to meet the house mother first, and then they had to get permission to take her out, and they could not even go off campus until something else happened. And I mean, it's mind boggling, truly. And so cool to hear all those stories. Just so cool. Obviously, things have changed. But to me, knowing that piece about my mom, about her life and her experiences, is just amazing. It's amazing. It makes me happy. It makes me feel like I know her better. All good things. So, open ended questions is, I got off on a tangent there, but open ended questions, because you just never know where it might go. And then you let them talk and you follow the thread. And so you might ask them a question about, their college experience, and they answer and they don't feel like talking about it. And then it doesn't become anything, right? You move on to whatever else you're doing. But sometimes they're going to say something like my mom when she said, "Oh, yeah, we weren't allowed to leave campus unless blah, 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 blah." And I went, "What? How are they policing that? How did they even know?" And we got into a whole conversation. Sometimes that's going to happen, and it's just amazing. And you have this knowledge that you never would have had otherwise. So listen and follow the threads. I love the idea of looking through old photos as a way to start these conversations as well. So you maybe are looking at a photo album, or you're cleaning things out, or maybe you just were thinking about that and you're on a walk, or you're cooking dinner, or you're on a drive and you go, I remember seeing this picture, what was going on there? That makes it feel natural too. You want to be coming from a place of really genuine curiosity. I promise you're going to learn some things that are either really cool or really powerful and helpful, or probably both. Just keep it relaxed, though. This is not a research project. You're probably not writing a book. You're just wanting to connect. And maybe you're sharing back and forth. Everybody's an adult now. Maybe you're talking about a summer that you loved and a vacation that you loved, and you're remembering that. And then you're asking them, well, what would you do in the summer when you were a kid, or when you were that age? The back and forth is really powerful, and it doesn't make the other person feel like they're being interrogated again, right? And then my next tip, do know when to stop. If somebody seems uncomfortable or a little bit annoyed, then don't worry about it, right? No big deal. Either they're not in the right mood, or you hit on a little bit of a hot button issue that they don't want to talk about. You still might have planted a seed. It might come up in the future. They might kind of think about it and bring it up in the future. You never know, but it's cool. Go back to something lighter. It's not a big deal. We just want to see what little nuggets we can gain. All of that information I mentioned about my mom in college, that was many conversations over all different times over a number of years. So it'll add up over time. And it's such a gift for you and for me to know these things that we wouldn't have otherwise known. And you can even tell them that. You can say, I really want to know more about your life. I love knowing more about you. I'm telling you what, if my kid said that to me, I would just be, oh, I mean, so that's amazing. I mean, thank you. That's amazing. And I think most of the time, your parent or whoever is going to feel that way as well. So, those are my tips for how to go about conversations like this. And going from a purely practical perspective, maybe you kind of take some notes of something you want to remember. Now, I was reading an article about this, and it said, make sure to record the audio or the video. And I struggle a little bit with that because it makes it feel so much more formal, don't you think? That I'm turning on the phone recorder now. Make sure you think carefully what you say, right? But if you got into this cool conversation and you were like, wow, I never knew any of this. Like, can I record, make a video of us talking about this? This is amazing. I would love to share it with my sister or whatever. Maybe. Just keep it very chill. Maybe you just kind of write some things down after the conversation because you personally know that you'd love to tell your kids, or you'd love to tell other people in the family, or you'd love to preserve those stories. All right, so what am I talking about? What kind of questions? Maybe you want to know more about what their childhood was like, what their early life was like. There is one member of the older generation in my family who, over the past, 10 years, we've gradually learned did not have an easy childhood, and there was some emotional abuse there. And while I wish that hadn't happened, and it was a hard thing to learn about, I'm happy that I know, if that makes sense. And I wouldn't have known had we just not been having these conversations about memories and things came out. Maybe it's about the choices they make in life. Maybe you want to know what matters to your mom or your dad or your uncle. Maybe just it's about what they really value or what they believe in. If you're a person of faith, maybe you want to ask them about their faith. It might not be exactly the same. We all have nuances, right? That's okay. That's really interesting to know. And how did that come to be? Maybe it's about relationships and family. How did they meet their spouse or their partner? How did they decide to have kids? Just cool stuff like that. You don't know that because you were the kid, probably. And then what about career? Where did they work when they got out of school? Do you know that? I don't think we always know that about our parents. How did they decide? Did they have like a dream they always wanted to do? Are they happy with where their career went? And that's a yes or no question, so I wouldn't word it like that. And then I like this one in sort of these categories. What about culture and traditions? What about their parents or their grandparents? You probably know even less about your grandparents, their parents, and certainly even less about the next generation. Wouldn't it be cool to ask what they remember about their parents for some of these things? And what was their tradition on Christmas or New Year's or July 4th or whatever? What did they do as a child? All kinds of cool stuff comes out of that. And then sometimes, depending on the situation, there's the whole category of if I had known then what I know now, what would I have done differently? I'd be careful with that one because you don't want to go down a path that causes someone to kind of feel bad about themselves in the conversation. We don't want to start a conversation like that, but it might work. It would be powerful to know maybe. How about what makes them feel good? What makes them feel happy? What do they fear? Again, hard to ask. What do they want for the next generation? They're probably thinking about having grandkids, if they don't already. What do they want for their grandkids? What would they imagine for them? It's kind of cool to think about. So all those areas of questions are really powerful. And it can be super simple. Like if you want to chat with them about their early life, you can say, what's your earliest memory? Or what kinds of games did you like as a kid? What did you do when you were playing with your friends as a kid? What do you remember? Easy stuff. Now, here's a more difficult one and also really interesting. So use your judgment on whether this is a question that would be upsetting or not. What do you hope people will remember about you? As I'm saying this, am kind of thinking in my mind, what do I hope people will remember about me? It's an interesting question to think about, and I think powerful to think about. It doesn't mean we're going tomorrow. Nobody knows. What do we want people to remember? It's kind of cool to think about. Or if we could pass on one lesson or one story or piece of advice to our grandkids and the future generations, what would it be? Cool question. And of course, if all of that sounds just so daunting and you've never sat down with a parent and had any sort of back and forth conversations asking about them, it could feel scary. So start with the light ones. What's your favorite food that you wish we ate more? What was your favorite song or your favorite movie or your favorite book when you were a kid? I mean, I didn't know all the movies that my mom loved when she was younger, the movies from back in the 50s and 60s. I didn't know that. It happened to come out in a conversation at one point, but I had never thought to ask. Now, here's a cool one. What invention during your life made the biggest difference to you or impressed you the most? So use fun ones. Ask them something fun. The goal is to do this in a way that gives you really cool information and makes both of you feel closer, because we don't have forever to do this. And we don't have to rush and we don't have to worry. We just have to know, let's appreciate this older generation now. Let's learn from them and make it fun, because it can be fun. Go over to Mind Your Midlife on Patreon or Substack and subscribe. Grab the list of questions, use them. Find me on social media at Cheryl P. Fisher and send me a DM and tell me how it goes if you have a conversation like this. I would love to know. And then remember, if you do a paid subscription on Patreon or Substack, there is a secret podcast series every month. This month, it's about moving through a job change you didn't want to have to move through. New mini series every month. So make sure you catch that. And let me ask you, do you know someone who has aging parents who might appreciate all the ideas in this episode as well? If you do, send them the episode, tell them to listen, share it with them. Why not? Maybe it makes a difference in their relationship, in their family as well. Now, make sure you've hit the follow button, because next week I have a guest joining me with tips for us for how to be active, dare I say, exercise during midlife, perimenopause, menopause. Can't wait to see you there. And in the meantime, remember to slow down, notice what's going on in your head, what's going on around you, and let's create something amazing.